Blood testing startup Theranos is in hot water. Twitter laid off 8% of its global workforce, and Square filed for its IPO.
Theranos is in some hot water this week. So what's going on here?
Yeah, okay, so basically the Wall Street Journal came out with this report a couple of days ago. They had been working on the story for 5 months, basically saying that 10 months? What did you say?
No, I said that's a lot of months.
That is a lot of months. So basically, there is an issue, or potentially an issue, with their technology, or that they're not using their technology.
The tech is they basically do like a tiny finger prick in order to draw your blood, and they run tests on that.
Right. So they run a bunch of tests. I think there's a little over like 200 tests that they advertise that they're able to test for. But their technology, they're actually only using their technology on maybe, I think it was 15 or so, and now they're limiting it to 1.
Right. Okay, wait, so what happened there? Why are they limiting it to 1?
So this actually came after the WSJ report, right?
Yeah.
And let's see.
The FDA, look, everything they're working on has to go through the FDA anyway. Yes, it's a slow process, it's a tedious short, but supposedly the FDA looks out for our health and well-being. Hopefully.
Right.
But with Theranos, they have to check every test and have to go through all this stuff. But Theranos had gone ahead and done partnerships with Walgreens. And their competitors are like Quest Diagnostics and things like that. Mm-hmm. This is a huge multi-billion dollar business that they're trying to get a chunk of. But the Wall Street Journal, some former employees had some not so nice things to say, said that they're not actually using their technology at all. They're using like old existing technology.
And they didn't just talk to former employees. They talked to a bunch of other medical professionals as well in the story.
Yeah. So basically everything we thought we knew about Theranos is being questioned, which I think is fair. Theranos, their Elizabeth Holmes, their CEO, has come out and responded. And what's she saying? She's like,
yeah, she's saying that, there's not a problem with their technology, because another thing that came up was that that actually the results might not be as accurate as Theranos was or has been advertising. So that's a big concern. And but now she did go on ahead and confirm that they're just going to limit their technology to 1 test, but they haven't said what test that is. Right. And Theranos tests for anything from herpes to HIV.
Forms of cancer.
Exactly.
Like
so
important things. You don't want to get wrong.
So I'm not sure. She hasn't said which test they're going to use their technology.
This is an interesting case study in the Silicon Valley hype machine too. This company is worth what, like $9 billion or something like that.
Right.
$9 billion. Elizabeth's being compared to Steve Jobs. She seems like an extremely competent and intelligent person. We've had her on stage at Disrupt. She's done many other conferences. But she went on Jim Cramer yesterday. He kind of lobbed her some beach balls. They're doing full PR, trying to attack this. And then the Wall Street Journal has their second article out, which we talked about too, and then who knows what else, what other firepower. But yeah, there's a lot of people with a lot of money tied up in this company and don't want it to fail. I don't think anybody wants the company to fail, but people asking questions is fair. Slowing it down is fair. People get frustrated in Silicon Valley and around Silicon Valley when things slow down. And understandably so. We like to move fast and break things. But we don't want to break people. So if they have to go through extra scrutiny, great. Would I use one of their tests if the FDA approves them? Yes. So we'll see. It's not going to be resolved in a week.
So another big story this week, Square has filed to go public. Are you ready to talk about Jack Dorsey a little bit more?
Again. Jack Dorsey again.
That guy.
That guy.
This keeps coming up.
Yeah. But we've got to look at their financials. I think we talked about this a little bit. It's not that terrible.
Right, it's not that terrible. Revenue is higher than expected.
Yeah, revenue was a little bit higher than expected, $560 million in the first, $560.6 million in the first half this year. Loss of $77.6 million, a little bit slimmer than we might have expected, right? And obviously there was a little bit of a snafu with the Starbucks deal.
The Starbucks deal, but it sounds like that's getting flushed out finally. Literally, it's gone. But no, there's they talk about the future of their software being a big part of their business, so it's not all processing. The interesting thing, a couple interesting Jack tidbits there, since we love talking about him. He's giving away chunk to charity. Chunk of his shares to charity.
Right. What's the name of that foundation?
That was a really good question. I should have done more homework. The Small People Foundation.
That's what
I don't
it was
know. We'll
called.
check on that. I'll link it. Yeah.
But
anyway.
anyway, yeah, go on.
And then, he mentions his mother being his first boss at Square. It was a very human letter from the CEO, which Jack does well.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is entering a kind of like a rough-ish IPO market. I mean, we've seen a little bit of questions around some things. I think First Data went public earlier this week, and it did okay-ish, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious, later this year, how are we looking at it in terms of a potential IPO?
Well, one of the very real things to look at, and one of the things that was brought up in the S1 is the fact that Jack Dorsey is the CEO of two companies. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So will people be afraid to jump in? I don't know. If investors have the same reaction that we have, which it's not so bad, maybe they'll jump. I don't think there's going to be a huge pop. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it'll
Is this going to be a distraction for Jack Dorsey? The guy co-founded both companies, right?
Right, and I think it was Alex Wilhelm who made the point, or maybe it was someone else, but I think it was Alex, who said that it's... Okay, so Steve Ballmer of Microsoft, that is a huge, huge company with so many different divisions. The size of Square and Twitter together aren't even as big as Microsoft as a whole. So is it really... So with Jack running just two not that big companies, it might not actually be that much of a
We're going to talk about Ballmer later. You meant Satya Nadella, but the point is totally the same, and that's why. And that's why Alphabet kind of broke its parts up because Larry Page in charge of how many units?
Yeah, now Sundar's in charge of Google.
It's interesting. Look, if I was placing bets, I would say that once the company Square IPOs, everything's calm. They name a successor. Jack steps back as chairman. Mm-hmm. He's built a phenomenal executive team around him at Square.
Yeah, and Twitter's got a new executive chairman as well. So it seems like they're setting up a little bit for some backup for Jack on both sides. And now Steve Ballmer is an investor in Twitter.
And that's why you're
right.
He's 4% of Twitter.
Right.
140 characters, Twitter, social network.
Los Angeles Clippers
4%.
owner Steve Ballmer likes
Yeah.
Twitter Moments. So what is Moments again?
It's a breakdown of interesting news, tidbits, information that normals will find interesting, but people like us will find annoying because it's not customized in about tech.
Well, Steve Ballmer likes it.
Steve Ballmer loves it. Moments.
Really? Has he been getting all hyped up about it?
That's what
No,
was in
he
the
doesn't
tweet.
use Twitter until
okay.
now, but
Well, I guess he qualifies.
Good for him.
Los
Good guy.
Angeles Clippers owner qualifies as normal.
He used to annoy the crap out of me, to be completely honest, when he was at Microsoft. I love this version of Ballmer. I'm going to buy an NBA team. I'm going to own 4% of Twitter. Good on you. Buy a couple jets, brother.
Speaking of Twitter, again, going back to
Yeah,
Twitter.
layoffs.
Some layoffs. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
8% of its workforce, but gets to about 370 people or so from the engineering team.
Yeah. Well, was it across the company or was it?
I thought it was
Mostly engineers.
Yeah, mostly.
They're very.
Yeah, this is speaking of Jack Dorsey again. Jack Dorsey kind of slimming the company down, right? And it's kind of streamlining things. Twitter's kind of had a little bit of a product bloat, especially under Dick Costolo, and now Dorsey's coming in. He's a new CEO. He wants things to be a little bit more focused. Twitter Moments comes out, right? Is this? Do you think this is the right move for a company like Twitter?
I think so. I mean, you look at a company like Google and Facebook, companies like Google and Facebook that can hire, and find a place for people and be nimble enough to say, okay, we're going to move you over here to this group in this division. Twitter wasn't doing that. They were hiring a lot of people who were doing the same things, and those people were arguing, and then nothing was getting done. The product just stalled out. So getting rid of some of that, layoffs are never good, but sometimes you got to thin things out. I saw something. Twitter has 300 million users and 3,000 employees, or 3,000 plus.
Yeah.
WhatsApp, 55 employees.
Yeah, Instagram.
And 900 million, right? You know what I mean? It's not apples to apples, but there's bloat there for sure, like you said.
Right, and what's interesting is that these layoffs to us don't really come as a huge surprise, but it really seemed to catch a lot of Twitter's now former employees off guard. They said, oh, like I found out I was laid off on Twitter because I wasn't able to sign into my account. A friend of mine posted on Facebook that day, just worst day ever.
Right.
I mean, couldn't there have been a better approach for Jack to kind of let people know?
Layoffs are tough.
I mean, do you just kind of blindside them and just
Layoffs,
I don't know.
layoffs are
is that
tough.
just how
And-
they kind of happen?
And when
usually?
something's positioned as a layoff, there's maneuvers legally that have to be done.
Yeah.
There's board involvement. There's a lot of, Jack didn't wake up and say, okay, let's let 370 people go. This was probably something discussed when Dick was the CEO, and it's picked up. It may not be the last one.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
but the good thing is a lot of former Twitter employees are helping those that have gotten laid off to find new work, and hopefully they do.
Well,
Right.
we'll see what happens there. Thank you so much for joining us.